Right, in this video, I'm going to show you how we can drastically reduce the time it takes to produce a YouTube video using our YouTube production skills. This is a set of skills that we produced ourselves. And ultimately, what this proves is that you can do this yourself. And that is the ultimate objective of this channel, is to show you and teach you how to use these tools yourself to produce your own productivity tools. So if you need help with that, please go to the link in the description below and let's have a chat. All right, so what we're going to have is an input. We have two OBS rough take videos, and the output is going to be a final YouTube video. And in that process, we produce YouTube metadata, which includes the title, etc., etc. And we will produce an end screen, a YouTube thumbnail, and the cherry on the cake, a linked-in version of that video. So let's jump right in. This is just, again, an overview of our skills library. And the first we're going to look at is taking the rough take and creating a srt and vtt file that gives you all the assets for the thumbnails, and gives you all the assets for the captions and subtitles, and also produces an MP3 audio file. And we put that into the roughcut skill, which then creates two timelines that we import into DaVinci Resolve. So that's our first sub destination, is importing into DaVinci Resolve. So let's jump straight into that. Let's look at the prompt. These are the prompts we're going to use. This is for the first video, and let's run that process now. So we jump across into Cursor, and I'm actually going to use Grok 4.5 high for this process. I'm not going to use codecs. In our media folder, here is the rough cut, the original OBS recording that we need. So let's just run this prompt. All right, so we're using the srt-vtt-openai skill to transcribe this video to SRT. That's the slug preview rough cut, which is correct. And that is where the master file is, correct. And the SRT output is going to be that destination, and we're telling it only to create the SRT, not the VVT as well. So we run this. Okay, so there the WAV file, the audio preview rough cut, has been created. So the first part of that skill has fired, and it's now transcribing to SRT. Okay, so the SRT was created, and that took a couple of minutes. All right, so let's move on to the next process. The next process is to actually use the rough cut skill to create the FCPXML file, and we're not going to generate an MP4 for speed's sake. Okay, so the prompt that invokes the rough cut skill has certain input requirements, and these are the slug, where the master MP4 is, where the SRT is, which we've just generated in the previous skill, and what is the silence gap. So in other words, what the silence gap is to cut out silence that is greater than 1.8 seconds. And then it also takes a directive. This is a director's directive, explaining what the outcome of the video should be. And this is really saying, okay, this video shows the preview process of the PM roughcut video production. So that's what the video is about, and it shows what it must include and what it must exclude. And then these two placeholders here, LLM-to-conclude, these are LLM directives that the LLM should have in order to produce the required output. So we do one rinse before that. Before running this prompt, we do a rinse which we ask the LLM to actually fill in these placeholders with the information that it will require. And we're telling it to read the SRT and fill in. Okay, so we need to give it the actual LLM prompt as well. So we need to actually give it this prompt, and then it will produce what it needs to fill in. Okay, so this is the in the prompt that it has generated, and what it must specifically include. So it's gone through the SRT and picked out the learning items and nuggets that need to be included in the video, and it's also expanded on what needs to be excluded. So this is again pretty good. Okay, so as per the skill, it has produced its first output, which is a draft document that shows the directive. It shows a content map. It gives a content map, and what a content map is an overview of what the content is in the video. And then it shows the education nuggets, and then this is what it proposes as the cuts. You could spend some time reading through this, but for expedience sake, we're going to approve, and it asks whether we want to approve it or revise. So in this case, we're just going to approve. And now it will actually take this this draft and produce the timeline files. So, okay, so it has drafted the keep table. This is what it proposes that it's going to build the cut file on. And again, we're just going to approve this. And now it will write the actual files to import. Okay, so here these files have been written, and there is the preview FCPXML, and there is the preview EDL, and there is the JSON that is going to be used. Now, there's one final step that we need to do before we can import, and that is to normalize the path that DaVinci Resolve will use to find the original MP4 file. And all we do, we just run this Python script, then we'll normalize that file path and run that. And there is the final FCPXML file that we import into DaVinci Resolve. So that honestly has taken all of 10 minutes, if that. So let's hop over to DaVinci and import that. Just one thing to specify, when I do the second video, I am going to use a clean context window. That's to keep the context out of the dump zone. Okay, both of the FCPXML files have been written, so that's less than 10 minutes, and let's hop across to DaVinci and import these in that environment. See you soon. Okay, we are now in DaVinci, and we already have our Wayfinder roughcut timeline. So let's now import the new timelines. All right, so there are the new timelines. All right, and there it has been imported. Fantastic. And let's import the second one. And there is the second one. All right, so now all we do in DaVinci is we create a master, a new timeline, and we bring those onto that timeline. So let's do that. Okay, so in DaVinci Resolve, we have created a new timeline, roughcut master. And all we do is we copy so that is the first one we imported. We copy that, paste it there. All right, and then the second one, and we paste that there. So now we have both of these on the master, and in essence, we now have a rough cut in DaVinci Resolve that we will polish to create the YouTube. And for a solo entrepreneur, a solo operator, this is a huge time saving. Okay, we soldier on. So where are we? We have got our OBS rough take, and we have created the srt-vtt file, which we then used to create the rough cut. And the rough cut, we have done a polish in DaVinci Resolve, and we have the Mezzanine output that will be used as input for Downstream to create the final MP4, and we have an audio file that we are going to use. Okay, so we had some significant inefficiency in our first draft, not really a draft, in our first iteration of our YouTube production skills. And it was in the step from outputting from the DaVinci Resolve, the first run, we were outputting an MXF file from DaVinci Resolve as well as an audio file, and then using that to process downstream tasks. Now, it so turned out that there is a 2 gig cap on the node process. The node process could only process an MXF file that is less than 2 gigs. Now, MXF files are huge. 2 gigs will be less than 30 seconds of video, or maybe a minute, and that's useless. So what was happening is that the end screen skill, which was processing the MXF file, had to remux the MXF into an MP4 in order for the process to complete. That created a layer of inefficiency and also a significant increase in time in order to produce. So what we have done, and the benefit of MXF is only if you are going to, the MXF retains quality. So the benefit is only if you are going to do advanced video editing downstream from this point, and we're not. All we want to do is add an end screen and maybe do some captions, not captions, some lower thirds and some graphics. But at this point, all we're doing is the end screen. So all that Remotion has to do now is attach the end screen to the MP4, which is exported at this point. So we have just refactored the skill that from the DaVinci Resolve polish, we output a YouTube format MP4 in H.264 AAC. And basically that's the YouTube format. And the end screen then uses that, does not recode it. It just attaches the end screen to the end of it. And then in further iterations, we will be able to use Remotion to add further enhancements to this MP4 via code. So let us continue. So from the output, the DaVinci Resolve output, we have the MP4 and the audio. And with that, we then continue by creating the SRT and VTT file. So let's continue with that process. That SRT is used to create the metadata, and then it is used to create the thumbnail. And then once all that is in place, we use the end screen skill to render the entire final MP4 with the end screen using Remotion. So we've come a long way, and yeah, so let's just jump straight in to Cursor and get this going. So there's the prompt. Use the srt-vtt-openai skill with slug rc01 master. On there is the audio file, and create the SRT file only. So we have done that. We have seen where the audio is, and there is the SRT file. Okay, that is of the final video. Okay, so we have everything in place now, and we continue. And the next thing we're going to do is use the metadata writer, and this is the prompt for the metadata writer. And we have enough context here, so we just use the video metadata writer, and okay, and we run this, and we'll just check with our skills that the metadata writer, yes, the metadata writer just carries the video slug and the SRT file. We're not going to spend time looking at the actual metadata file. It's just that we need the metadata file and the YouTube thumbnail to generate the final MP4. And that's really where I wanted to get to with this video. This is not a video on metadata. We just need that asset in place. So what will now happen, it will present various options to us to approve, and it will put it all in the output directory, and there it is. And it has created the draft. The choices now is we need to approve a title, and here are the titles, and it's suggesting option C. Watch a first run roughcut skill trim 38 minutes to 17. So we're going to approve option B, and then just to get this done, so we're going to go approve option B. Okay, so it then finalizes this. So it's modifying the metadata and it's changing it to approve option B. All right, so we have our metadata in place. And it changes it from draft to final. All right, so that's all looking good. Now the next thing we want is the thumbnail, so we need the metadata for the thumbnail. So we want just get that, Okay, so the output, the metadata file is in YouTube RC01 master, YouTube output, YouTube RC01. Okay, and that is, so this prompt we run to get the thumbnail. Okay, we're getting, the context a bit tight, but, just for, I would probably do a handoff and create a new context, but for the sake of this video, we're just going to let it run. So if we check our skill, just to make sure we've actually passed everything, the skill takes, yes, a video slug, so it didn't really need the SRT, but that's fine. That's not a problem. It should actually still be fine. So what it's now it's using the Leonardo API to generate the graphic, but at first will ask us to approve. So there's the thumbnail brief. So in the same way, it creates a brief, and it's saying, it's suggesting option B, yes, cut hours off editing. And there's the prompt. Takes this prompt and passes it to Leonardo and will generate a thumbnail for us. All right, so it has created a draft, and that is the thumbnail. That's, for now, that's great. Well, we could tweak it, but this is strong enough for what we're trying to do. And we're going to approve this. We could iterate, we could, yeah, but this is fine. Approved. All right. So we have our metadata, we have our thumbnail, and we have our SRT. Okay, so now the final bit is to create the end screen and render the entire video using Remotion. Now this is new. We have not run this yet, so I'm going to just pause this video and set up. Okay, so I ran handoff because our context is about used in this, and I wanted a new context window to run the end screen. And so we have a handoff file and a full prompt to pass into a new agent. It's actually given us the prompt to run with the path to the file that is going to use to run the Remotion edit, and that will give us the final MP4 as well as an end screen. So all we need to do now is create a new agent, copy that in there. We're still using Grok 4.5 high, and let's kick this off. Starting the Remux and drafting the end screen brief from the metadata and thumbnail. It's drafting the end screen from option B. Okay, so end screen, so it's created a draft for us. The draft recommends A, which is cut hours off editing, and it's actually even started the Remux. Okay, all right, so I'm just going to approve this. Approve. All right, let's just let it run. Okay, and the render is complete, and it worked for 46 minutes, rendered for 46 minutes, and here is the opening screen. Let's just have a listen. A rough OBS recording, and this could be a tutorial that we're recording, and it's rough cut, there's no edit, and what we want as the output. Okay, that sounds all fine. So this is the bit that we want to see as well, the end screen. And I thank you for watching. If you need help, click to the link and let's have a chat. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers. And there's the end screen. The process complete, and well, for a first run, I don't think that was too bad. In fact, it wasn't bad at all. Cut hours off editing. We will be playing around with this and improving it. So if you need help with any of this AI agentic coding processes, click the link in the description and let's have a chat. For now, thanks for watching and see you in the next one. Cheers.